Hi, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas. And today I have Sul Wynne-Jones, and he lives in northern New South Wales in Northern Rivers. And please subscribe to the show notes. And I want you to start following him on Instagram and specifically look at this one post that we will link in the show notes. This is what I've known Sul for a long time, and it really inspired me. He helped assisted regeneration with this forest right near him, and it's freaking amazing. I was watching his post on Instagram going, are you kidding me? And it's like, you did this. There's a whole waterfall and everything that he's done there to assist the regeneration of this area. His full-time job now is basically creating forests. So you want to know how to create a forest, and it's like there's ways out there that you can actually choose that. So this month in April, I have a lot of different, or some guests on that for me are such a contribution to the earth. And I would like to honor them this month because it's the 22nd of April, it's Earth Day. For me, I love that we can have this one day. And of course, every day is Earth Day. I also have a class coming up starting on the 22nd of April. It's only over 2 days, and it's called Relationships Done Different with the Earth. And I would really like to invite you to acknowledge the relationship that you do have with the earth, and also the one that you would like to create. Like, what future would you like to create with the earth and with your body? Because there is so much more possible, and every single one of us has the capacity to create with the earth and be in communion with the earth. As I always say, you are an ecosystem and we are a part of this ecosystem. So how are we being with the earth today? So I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I enjoyed talking to Sul as well. Thank you. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning into or watching the Choice, Change and Action podcast. My name is Simone Milasas and I am your host. Your choice creates your future. Every choice you make, action you take, you create a change for you and the world. Please enjoy this podcast. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take me too seriously. Don't trust me. Trust you. You are the one that knows what will work for you. And have way too much fun enjoying your choices. Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody, and welcome, Sul Wynne-Jones. Welcome to my podcast.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me, Simone.
You're so welcome. So you are in, what area are you in right now? Byron Bay area?
Yeah, northern New South Wales, Northern Rivers, I guess. Yeah.
Northern Rivers, okay, which is a really beautiful part of the earth. It's one of the areas that every time I've driven there, I was always amazed at how green it is. I mean, obviously you get a lot of rain, but it's just so lush and so beautiful. Like one of those areas that's just feels so alive every time I go there. And I recently saw one of your posts on Instagram, which we will have Sul's details of where you can find him, etc. And we'll have a link to the post that I'm talking about on Instagram. Where I want you to talk us through this a little bit, because I was just like, you did what? It's like there's this area that he talks about that he's been going down to for a while and was like, oh, I wonder what this would look like, many years ago. And so you started to clear it out and create, I guess, the way the land is asking to be. So can you walk us through that? Like that's in your backyard, etc., and what came up for you and choosing it and what you did, please?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, like originally, I mean, I remember, well, one of those questions that Gary asked was like, what could you create that would go beyond your lifetime? And I remember when he asked that, I was like, immediately got like a forest, and I didn't really know much about that, so I went and studied that at a local, like TAFE, did a year's course on how to grow a forest, basically. But then, yeah, this one particular area is very near to where I live, and I often would walk the dog there, and I'd just go there and be like, wow, this place is amazing. Like little waterfall, and it's got this area of bush around it that just basically hasn't really been looked after. So it's just become kind of inundated with like weeds. And but I could just see from that area, and the energy that's available there, how special it could be, and also probably what it would have looked like, a couple of 100 years ago. And so, yeah, I thought, well, I've got all of these new skills, and I would like to grow a forest, and this looks like a good place to do it. So that's where I began.
And that is your job now too, isn't it? Don't you? Is Or one of your jobs is
Yeah,
you
so
build forest.
yeah, so it's I guess you'd call it like bush regeneration. So at the moment, it's very it's Easter time. It's very like wet here in Australia, and so we're planting a lot of trees at the moment that will become, yeah, forests in the future. So
I love that. I love that Gary asked the question and then you went, "Well, what could I create?" And now you're building forests. Like it's like this little kid, that goes, "I want to be a fire engine driver. I want to build forests." And it's like you're actually going and building forests. I think it's so brilliant. I have to ask you, it's like you went and did a years long course on how to grow a forest. What are some of the things that you learned from that you sort of went, "Wow."
yeah, so it's like I guess there's a lot of different parts and pieces to it. Where I am in particular in this area, we had something that was called the big scrub rainforest, which is only like there's like less than 1% of that original forest left, because basically people were allowed to have the land if they cleared it, and so a lot of the big scrub got cleared. So the course that I did was very specific to this area. So it's a lot about identifying the local like rainforest plants, and then also the like invasive species, so that you know what to keep and what to remove for like a indigenous sort of rainforest to thrive.
Yeah.
And then different techniques. I think one of the things that I really got from it was like it's definitely a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint. Like a forest takes a really long time to actually grow. So it's kind of like the things that you're implementing today are probably not going to see the full effect of for at least a few 100 years, which I quite like. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely the rewards are probably a little bit more in the future rather than right now. So yeah.
That's really cool. And you mentioned the like indigenous. Do you know what the indigenous area is around where you've been working? Like what? Because I know. Let's actually, if you want to explain, if you know much about it, it's like how the indigenous in Australia look at different areas of the land. Like they have different. They've always had different aspects. Like maybe this part of the land is for healing, or this part is for you know sacred rituals, or this part is for women to go to or men to go to, etc. Like I guess for me, the way I would interpret that is they listen to the land and what is that part of the land going to contribute to the beings.
Yeah, so we have two different, like in the area that I am, we've got the Bundjalung, and then we've also got the Gidabal. And so that I'd say, like, I think Byron Bay's always been a place where people would like pass through, and it's been like a meeting place. Whereas like the Gidabal area is more like the grassland, so it's more like hunting, and probably had a little bit more of people actually like living off the land in a more, not a permanent way, but yeah, there'd be more like people actually living in those areas, not just passing through. And yeah, I mean, the I guess there's a few different things, but one of the things that I've learned with the plants and the indigenous people is like there's one tree, for example, and they did genetic testing on it. It's called a black bean tree. And actually that tree was from like northern, like Indonesia, like up in the islands and stuff, and it made its way down into Australia, but it was only one seed, because every single tree that you find in Australia has the same genetics as that one tree. So it's like they brought the seeds from this tree to Australia, and they've actually been spread, by the people, by like bringing them further and further down the
Yeah.
coast from right up top. So
So how does that work with, I mean, I know if you've ever traveled to Australia, you'll know we are extremely aware of people bringing things into, into Australia, like nuts and seeds and everything like that. It's like, because we are one big friggin' island and they're very, cautious of that. What would you say is bringing this tree in? It's like, did it blend with everything else? Did it work with everything else? Or is it considered something that's more like a destruction of the local
Yeah,
nature?
it's interesting. There's like a few different kind of, I guess, oh, it's weird to categorize nature, but
Mm.
I'd say that that would be something that would be called naturalized. So it's something
Ah,
that has been in the ecosystem for so long that it's actually become part of the natural environment. And there's quite a few things like that that I found out where they don't actually, it's also like they might not actually, they might be from Australia or the land that you're on, but they don't necessarily come from that area, but they've grown to be in that area. That's something that would be considered naturalized.
naturalized. I like that terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it is interesting to go, oh, well, you're not natural here. So, but we do
Yeah.
have a lot of in Australia that were brought in, like the cane toads, for example. It's like we're brought into Australia, and oh my goodness, they just like breed and breed and breed. And as far as I know, you might know something different. They don't seem to be a contribution to the ecosystem here. I don't know. Do you know anything different about that with the cane toads?
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone talking about it recently, and they're like, "Oh, maybe it sounds pretty brutal, but maybe cane toads would make good fertilizer or something." Like maybe there's another way we could actually use them that would create something different. But I mean, you look at people, and people will move from country to country, and it's like
Yeah,
they will then call a new country home. And I
yeah,
think essentially that's what the plants are doing. They're like, "Oh, I can grow well here. Like, why not?"
yeah,
So.
yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of right and wrong with all of the like the weeds and the native plants and stuff. But I guess I guess when I look at it, it's like what's gonna create the most in this situation, because you can't eliminate all weeds, and it's not, so it's more of like looking like what's going to work here. Or if you're planting trees, like asking the tree like where would you like to be, rather than sort of
Mm.
dictating everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that with I recently, because 2020, I started buying indoor plants and I started buying a lot of indoor plants, like, and to the point where people were like, do you think you can have too many? And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, it's just like, there's just plants everywhere. And then
Yeah.
only just recently, I went, I think some of these plants want to be in the soil. So I literally walked around to every single plant that I had and I was like, okay, repot, soil, or stay here. And I just asked them all that question. I only gave them 3 choices, actually. I mean, they could have been telling me something else, but I was like, "Let's use your 3 choices." And some of them were like, "I wanna move." And I was like, "Okay, where do you wanna go?" "Bathroom." "Okay." But I had a lot of the plants that just were like, "Hey, soil." So I have cut back on so many of my indoor plants, and I have these, and it's almost like creating this space gave such a different sense in my house. And now I have all these plants. I just built this fence. Well, not me. I had people build the fence, and had my gardeners are coming in to put all those plants in the soil. It was like, and I get it. It's like, when you have plants in a pot, nothing wrong with it. It's like I friggin' love them. And what part of the ecosystem can they be? I know they still communicate to each other. I just know they do. And what
Mm.
part can they be when they're actually planted in soil? And then how that is a different level of communication is what I get they were asking for. So that's what I've been choosing moving forward. But it's I find it a lot of fun to actually talk to the plants in my house. Like, they're all called, Buddy or this guy. They don't have their proper names. My gardener will even say blah, 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 and I go, "What, that guy?" And I go, oh, in the morning, I'm like, "Morning, Buddy." I'm like, "Hey, this guy." So that's what they're all called, and I'm okay with that. I think they're okay with that too, but
Yeah.
that's how we be as a ecosystem in my area here.
Yeah.
So, hey, I want to also, like, when we talked about, would you say it's regenerating the land in your backyard? Is that what would you call it?
Yeah, I
Regenerating?
guess so. Yeah, it's like Yeah, definitely. I guess regeneration is where it's also, so you could allow something to regenerate itself. And then
Mhm.
I guess what we're doing is kind of like assisted regeneration, where it's like you're actually putting your input into the land or the ecosystem to like enhance it and yeah, add your energy to it, and hopefully make it something greater.
I like that, assisted regeneration. And I just want to stipulate here, please check out the link that we put below where Sul walks you through this, because I know right now you're thinking, oh, it's like this little plot of land. It's not, it's huge. It's like, how big was it, the area?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't actually know the full extent of it. I found like a few boundaries where there's, a fence and there's like farmland, but it's definitely, it'd be at least an acre or two, and it's all surrounding a waterfall. I'm going to take a few more videos as I'm going around and planting some trees, and because I think people really enjoyed to actually see the process of what's going on.
Oh, I
So
did. I watched it, like, I
yeah.
was enthralled by it. I was
Cool.
enthralled by it, and so, I wanna say proud of you, Saul, and just, like, that this is actually possible. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was
And
brilliant. So
yeah. Or I think, like with El Lugar, what's being created there, I think that's one of the smartest ways to like protect a rainforest, I guess, or make sure that it stays rainforest. And there's plenty of ways to do that. Like especially, I know a lot of them in Australia, but all over the world, there's people doing that, which I think is great because it's like the rainforest is already there, and you can, like you can potentially like buy a piece of it and keep it as rainforest, or and I think stuff like that is a really good way to go. The bringing rainforest back is like a lot more work and a lot more effort, but still very like rewarding, and I think something that we should be doing as well. So
yeah. So what else did you gain from this? What else was the land talking to you about, the earth talking to you about?
um I think when I'm out in the forest, I basically lose all sense of time, and before I know it, it's like dark.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, for me, it's this place where I don't know. It's just like a different reality, I guess. And I think that's what I receive from it is just the the peace, the space, and it's really fun for me. Like I get really I like to go walk down to the rainforest just to check it out and see if anything's grown. And it goes very slowly, but it's like that's like fun for me. So I don't know. I think that's the kind of enjoyment and the things that I'm receiving from it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing like more animals there, and I don't know, see it kind of come alive a little bit more, I guess.
What animals are there at the moment?
Just like bush turkeys, lots of lizards. There's fish in the in the waterfall that bite people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was this one guy standing in the pond, and his his son got bitten, and he was like, "Oh, you'll be okay." He was carrying him, and then the fish bit him, and he threw his son away, and was like, "Ow!"
So
So
they're
yeah,
not like piranhas. We haven't
no,
we haven't, but we haven't, imported those in.
no, everything in Australia bites you. Apparently, no. Yeah, it's I don't know what kind of fish they are, but I think bull routes or something. There's something that bite you, basically. So
Right, right.
yeah.
And so what would you like to say to the people listening to this podcast when they're just like, "Oh my goodness, building a rainforest sounds amazing. Building, assisting regenerating the bush sounds amazing, and it all feels like it's way too big for me." Where can people sort of start to create something different?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like what you were talking about, Simone, like with your house, like starting to go, okay, well, if I was going to have some plants here, what would I like to have? And going out and sort of like being in the question of what would like to come home with you, and you know, what plants might like to live with you. And then, you know, like you've been doing as well, going, okay, well, where else do you want to be? And, you know, do you require something else? Like just starting with whatever you have available. Because I think that that communication, like with plants, with anything, you just need to start somewhere for it to grow. And if you find that that's fun for you and you want to sort of expand it, there's plenty of people out there around the world looking for people who are keen and interested in this area. So there's lots of organizations that you can join, like local groups. And if you want to just go out there and do it, then you can do that as well.
Go plant some trees as well. I want to add to that too. It's like I think you have to come out of judgment too, because, you know, I mean, the world says, "Oh, have you got a green thumb, right? Are you good with plants?" And I would have always said no, like that I wasn't. And then I realized I was looking outside of me. I was looking for somebody else to reference, like for somebody to come along and tell me what to do with my plants, or just something outside of me. And I realized that everybody had a different point of view. I'm going to give this scenario, but it was the same. At one stage in my life, I thought all accountants and lawyers knew everything. And then I realized, oh, hang on, they don't, but they've got bits and pieces of information. So then I would listen to all accountants and lawyers and go, oh, I can't, that piece of information, that one, that one, that one. And I'd pull it all in. And that's what I started doing probably about, I'm going to say 2 years ago, because I really thought, I don't know even what I'm doing. I'm getting all these plants. I'm like, it's like having all these kids and I don't know. And I remember talking to Gary Douglas one day and I went, they're so loud. Like they're just, and they don't stop. And he was like, he goes, they're not loud. He goes, you can now just hear them. And I was like, yeah, but they don't stop talking to me. Like it's almost like going crazy at one stage. And then I had to relax with it and go, okay, what do I know about this? Like I've brought these plants, I've invited them into my home. What do I know about this? So I did keep asking people questions. And I mean, at one stage I had this guy coming to I had a great gardener and he retired. And there's another guy who came and he was just coming and mowing my lawn, right? Grateful. But I was like, but he's just mowing my lawn. And I was like, I'd like someone to come in who sort of just stepped into my yard and was like a part of it, you know? So I asked for that to show up, and I got the most amazing gardener. Actually, he told me the other day we've been together for 5 years now. His name is Will, and he's got a partner called Diego. They're actually going to be on my podcast as well. They're just phenomenal guys. And I remember the first time he pinged me, the first time he ever came to my garden, and he texted me and said, "Hey, I hope you don't think I'm weird or anything." He goes, "But your garden was amazing to be in, and it felt like there was all these fairies and da 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 this thing." And I went, "Oh no, don't worry." And from that moment on, we both went, "Oh, we can be as weird as we would like with each other. We got this, you know." And I noticed I started asking my plants questions, and you know, some of them have died. It's like some of them have flourished. Some of them are like just so flourishing, and I'm like, I'm not even doing anything. But I think you need to start asking what you're being with your plants and hearing them and not having to get it right. Like you really have to come out of that place of judgment. And what if you could just play with the plants and play with nature? Because I get it changes all the time too. Like you said, it's like it's really wet here at the moment. Like it has not stopped raining. You know, I don't know about where you live, so but usually get more rain than us. And here it's just been raining, 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 raining. So then there's going to be a different request in their world for what it is they desire. And the plants aren't doing it from, you know, they're not doing it from judgment. They're not doing it from limitation. It's like, what is it they're asking for? So my suggestion too is just be with your plants. Even go to a nursery and sit in the nursery and be like, okay, who wants to come home with me? Like, you know, what can you show me? And what can you teach me? And what is it that you would like to have around your home? I'm about to start building a food forest, which I'm really excited about in my backyard, all along the fence. Like I'm talking bananas, figs, you know, passion fruit, blueberries, everything. It's like, and building this food forest, and it matches the energy of what it is I would like to be in the world and have as a future, that I have this food forest. And also we want to do it so it's hanging over the fence, etc., so that, you know, someone walking their dog, going to the beach can just, you know, pick a fig, or pick something and take it and get nourished by it. It's like, let's share it with the community, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. So it excites me so much.
Yeah, I love that. And like your body really lit up when you were talking about that. I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I want to eat all the good food from the trees. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I have this thing that I've never been able to really grow much that you can eat, right? And I realized I had that point of view, and I went, well, that's a fixed point of view. And the soil here is really sandy because I'm across the road from the beach. So and people go, oh, the soil's too sandy. And I realized how much I brought that point of view. And then my gardeners and we went, well, let's change it. And they've been working on the soil. Man, my grass grows so freaking fast now. It's like everything is just, and they've got this whole way, which I'm going to interview them about it. This whole way of gardening with all the banana leaves and everything, in the way they do everything. It's just like it's amazing. But I started also going, well, what if I could grow food, like being in the question? So we're going to build this whole herb sort of garden as well, like on wheelbarrows, that I can move around depending on the sun and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I like that. My whole body is lighting up just thinking about it, because I also get the contribution it is to me and the contribution I can be to the earth. So what next for you, Saul?
I think just for me, I guess it's like starting here and seeing what else comes. There's been lots of different like ideas and ways I'd like to take it. And yeah, like just sort of letting, I guess, also the forest talk to me and let me know what's next.
So if you could create anything in the world and money wasn't a problem, what would you choose?
Uh well,
Money
yeah,
wasn't an
let's
issue, I should say.
yeah. Um I guess I think the thing that I really actually enjoy about the like seeing, well, what I've noticed is that so many people when they go into like a forest or something like that, there's a different energy that's available with them and their body. And it's like I've
Mm.
always really enjoyed that, like even if it's just providing a really nice place for someone to stay, and it's like you get that sense of the relaxation and that energetic contribution. And I think the forest is something that we all can enjoy and receive that from. So yeah, creating more of that, I guess, is my sort of target right now. But yeah.
I love that. And so where can people find you, Saul, if they want to?
Well, yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Sul Wynne-Jones, and I have a website, sulwynnejones.com. So yeah, you can find me there.
And we will have all of those details in the show notes. So don't forget to subscribe to the show notes. And we will also put a link to the post that I was talking about that I saw of Saul's with the rainforest. And maybe by the time this goes to air, we could also do like a live or something like that with you down in the rainforest if you get do you get
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
I have to go and see what the reception's like there, but I think it's
right.
possible.
If the forest will let you do that.
Yeah, climb to the tallest tree and maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, before we go, I just want to, I don't know, there's an energy that I'm aware of that
Mm.
people have created, like a separation between them and the earth. It's sort of like, oh, that's those people who can do that because they know more. A little bit like what I was talking about with the, do you have a green thumb or not a green thumb? It's not an either or, right? I just get a lot of people listening to this are like, oh, well, I live in a city, or well, I haven't been taught that, or I da da da. And I'm like, what would it take to close that gap up and not have that separation with the earth? Because every
Yeah.
single one of us, yeah. What can you add
Well,
to
I
that?
I know when talking to people like about this as well, and like with if you look at your body, for example, like your body is literally made up of the same molecules as the earth. Like they're the same elements, but configured in a different way. And so it's like if you can only really pretend to be separate, because it's like you are really literally part of the earth. And so I guess you know, it's like if there's somewhere where you feel separate, it's like there's somewhere where you're kind of like, I guess, lying to yourself or buying something that's, you know, buying something as true that's not. So it's like, what, yeah, like what do you know about it? And what if you just allowed yourself to explore that? Like just go out there and see what you do know, and, you know, see what information you can receive, and yeah, just start, just go.
I love that. And it's not too late. It's like even if you quite often I'll go lie in my backyard and I just put my feet up against the trees there.
Yeah.
And just because it's such a because I look at my trees from this way, dude, the birds yesterday, oh my God. I sent Dane a video going, just in case you miss Australia. They were crazy. And then, but it was like 6 hours, and I was like, "Come on, guys, come on, come on." Like, I was like, "What the hell?" Like, it was just like nonstop, so loud, and it was like so many of them. But I look at my trees from this angle, and so when I go and lie downstairs, like in the backyard on the grass, and put my feet on the trees, and I look up, it's such a different angle, and it's a different perspective of the trees. And I can like you when you said you just get lost in time. I can lie there for so long and just get lost in looking at these trees. And it's like, so just take a moment and spend any time with nature. And nature is so healing as well. I had a friend of mine not long ago. He sort of felt sick in his tummy, and I said, "Why don't you go ask the tree to help you?" And he looked at me like, "You crazy?" And I was like, "No, what?" I said, "Go ask the tree." I said, "Go." You know, I said, "They say hug a tree." I said, "Go hug a tree or touch the tree and ask it to contribute to your body." And he did. And then he came back and it was like, 15 minutes later, he was like, "Wow," he said, "I feel like my whole body's starting to calm down." And I was like, "Yeah, did the tree show you that?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then he was climbing in Italy not long ago too, and he said he was really tired and was like, "Okay." And it's like hard climbing there too. It's not like climbing mountains in Australia. It's like climbing mountains in Italy. It takes on a whole new, whole
Like
new
action
ball.
items.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he said he was really tired, and he was like, "Okay." So he said, "I leant down. I said I put my hands on the ground, and I asked the earth to contribute to me on this last climb." He said,
Mm,
"Simone, I had so much energy, like climbing." And he said his whole family were like, "What did you do?" He's like, "I asked the earth to contribute to me." It's that simple. And
mm,
then you start receiving. So I love that you mentioned that, Saul, that we are just a different configuration. And if you sense separateness, you'll create separateness. But you get to be so vulnerable and choose to not separate from the earth. So what if you could destroy and uncreate all the lies that you've been told that you are separate, and you're just like walking upon this earth rather than walking with the earth, because we are a part of the ecosystem. So how are we going to be with that? So everything at that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all names, shorts, boys, periods, and beyonds. And that's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more at theclearingstatement.com. But yeah, thank you. That's actually really cool. Thank you. That sort of had this like, because I'm like, what was that piece that we needed to change for people, invite people to? So is there anything else, Saul, that comes up for you that you want to leave the listeners with?
No, thank you for having me on here, and, you know, just you're always so great at reaching out and contributing to people. I'm really grateful for you, and yeah, everyone listening and watching, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Saul. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys next time. And maybe I'll see you too soon, Saul.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Well, did you like this podcast? Love it? Hate it? Inspired by it? Can you do me a favor? Can you please write a comment, share it, like it? If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, could you tick a few stars for us? Leave a review. It's all such a contribution, and I am immensely grateful. Follow us on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action, and drop into our DMs and let us know what you would like next. When you subscribe to the show notes, you will receive a brief summary and any questions or tools we used, and links to anything we discussed during the show. It might make your life easier. What if we asked for that? A life of ease, joy, and glory.